Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news. And we got a lot to talk about today. PlayStation 5 reviews started to come out, and we got a few new interesting details there, plus the launch lineup is looking very impressive. Yeah, my next generation hype is quickly growing, as it looks like it's going to be a very fun launch for the PlayStation 5 next week. Also, a big Xbox Series X exclusive title got delayed into 2021, but I actually think this was a very smart decision, and I'll explain why here in just a bit. As I said though, we have a lot of news today, so let's get right into it. So Dontnod is releasing back-to-back games in a very short period of time. Back in August and September, they released the Xbox exclusive Tell Me Why. Well, it looks like Dontnod is happy with the performance of that game, as they say it was received well from both critics and fans alike. Now, Tell Me Why is actually available on Xbox Game Pass, so if you did miss that one, you can always go check it out on Game Pass. The thing is, they're also releasing Twin Mirror on December 1st, so they're pretty busy. Not many studios are capable of working on multiple games at once and release them in a short period of time. But check this out. They're not just working on Twin Mirror, but apparently they're working on 6 different games, and they're adding a new studio in Montreal. This will put them up to 300 employees, and it looks like they have some big plans. If you look at their history though, they may be most well known for their interactive adventure games like Life is Strange and Tell Me Why, but they have experimented with games outside of that genre. They did also develop Vampire, which is a pretty good game. Well, from the sounds of it, some of the games that they're working on now will be a little surprising. They in fact very specifically mentioned the action RPG genre. So we could see an action RPG come from Dontnod in the coming years, and I think that's very exciting. They do a great job with storytelling, and if you like their games, you're going to have a lot to look forward to. Also, EA revealed some new details for the upcoming Battlefield game. Of course, this is a huge franchise, and fans are certainly wondering when we're going to see the next game. Well, I got some good news, as they're planning to release the next Battlefield in 2021. But what's really exciting is that they're claiming this will be a true next-generation experience, and it will be a game at a never-before-seen scale. Yeah, it sounds like they're planning to make this a massive game. It remains to be seen what this quote exactly means though. I will, however, say this. Battlefield has always done a good job at creating war zones. They put you in big maps, there's environmental destruction, vehicles, and they just kind of let you loose. So what I'm thinking is that they might try to increase the player count to something we haven't seen before. I mean, can you imagine? They might try to do something like 200 players in a game. That would be insane. It doesn't really surprise me though that Battlefield is trying to do something new. Battlefield in the past has always tried to advance technology. Not only do they have big maps with large player counts, but visually, they've always tried to push the boundaries with their Frostbite engine. I still remember the first time they revealed Battlefield 3, and that game absolutely blew people away. I mean, it was a very impressive reveal. So I can definitely see this really being a true next-generation experience. Now obviously there's still going to be questions in what type of game this will be. Will it be a modern shooter, will it be futuristic, or will they go back in time once again? Let me know your thoughts on that. What do you want to see from the next Battlefield game? EA wasn't quite finished there though, because EA Sports is planning on releasing multiple new sports franchises. Now of course you have franchises like Madden, FIFA, NHL, and UFC, but they're planning on expanding their horizon. So I got to thinking, what else could they do here? Well, actually, they did end up canceling NBA Live 20, and they said that they were planning to make some changes with that franchise, so we're going to see a new NBA game come from them sometime in the near future. They could end up changing the brand on that series, but there are a lot of other sports that they could try out. There's tennis, boxing, racing, extreme sports, and really, the list just kind of goes on and on. So if you do like sports games, they got something cooking over there. Moving on, the Avengers is back in the news yet again, and unfortunately, pretty much every time I've talked about this game, it's not good. Well, that trend will be continuing today because Square Enix just reported a 6.5 billion yen loss for their HD games, driven by none other than the Avengers. Yeah, that's not exactly what you want to hear, but that's a thing. This particular game has been surrounded by controversy for months before it even released. It did originally get delayed because fans weren't thrilled about the initial trailers that they saw. so they delayed it and fixed some things up. Unfortunately, it still launched with a ton of bugs, but that wasn't the only controversial decision that they made. This is a games as a service type game where you try to push post content, and that's not really a problem per se. A lot of games does this and does it right, but I think with the Avengers, it almost felt like it could have done better being a single player driven experience. The other problem though, and this was a big one heading into the release, but they were doing a lot of exclusive deals. Spider-Man as an example is a PlayStation exclusive, which obviously made a large part of their fan base upset. I mean, this is a multi-platform game, and Spider-Man is probably the most popular Avenger. Well, you can't play as him on Xbox or PC, and those fans are just unfortunately left out. I mean, sure, they probably got a nice check from Sony, but they probably also lost some potential buyers because of that move. It just didn't sit right with much of the community. So yeah, Avengers is not doing well. Now they still can turn things around, but for the time being, it's definitely struggling. Let's talk about PlayStation though, because reviews started to come out today, and overall, the PlayStation 5 is looking very impressive, especially the games. We'll talk about the hardware and features in just a moment, but the most important thing is the games, and the PlayStation 5 is starting the generation in a very good position. Spider-Man Miles Morales reviews are coming out, and it currently has an 85 overall score on Metacritic. That's a bit lower than the original game, but that's still a really good score. It sounds like once again it has excellent gameplay and a fun story to go through. Yes, it is a bit shorter, and I'm sure that affected the score, but one particular feature that is very impressive is its ray tracing. I did see some video of its ray tracing today, and it does look outstanding if you end up playing in that mode. Of course, you do have to sacrifice some performance there, but I think some people might be willing to do that because it really does look great visually with that ray tracing. Now, Astro's Playroom reviews started to come out as well, and this game has often been overlooked. I keep saying this on the channel though, this is actually one of my most anticipated games for the PlayStation 5. I legitimately think that Astrobot and the PlayStation VR headset is one of the best 3D platformers ever made. The problem though is that because it's a VR game, not many people have actually played it, but I'm telling you, it's a great game, and I think Astro's Playroom is going to surprise a lot of people. Well, reviews seem to echo that, as it has an 82 overall score on Metacritic. Yeah, you're about ready to see exactly why I've been so excited about this game, and that's a cool thing. This is a free game for everybody who buys a PlayStation 5, and it's meant to explore the technology of the DualSense controller. I have to say though, I'm a little bit conflicted on what PlayStation 5 game to play first. It's probably going to come down to Demon's Souls or Astro's Playroom for me. I might start with Astro just because it's a bit shorter, but we'll see. Either way though, that launch lineup for the PlayStation 5 is looking very good. Next up, let's focus on some of those features for the PlayStation 5. We did get quite a few new details for the PlayStation 5 today. I'm not really sure why Sony didn't advertise some of this stuff better leading up to the release, but we're going to take a quick look at 5 different things, starting off with backwards compatibility. There has been a ton of questions around backwards compatibility, and a lot of skepticism on how well it works. Really, this is because of Sony's lack of messaging, but luckily, we finally got some concrete information thanks to Digital Foundry. They do a great job at what they do, and I'd recommend you watch their video about this, but to put it short, they are incredibly impressed by PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility. All games with an unlocked frame rate seems to work at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second, which is absolutely fantastic. And most importantly, your PlayStation 4 games just work. It's not just 100 games like Sony initially said, but it looks like pretty much most games are going to work flawlessly on the PlayStation 5. Unfortunately, Bloodborne isn't 60 frames per second though, but I'm kind of hoping for a patch to fix that one. Also, a PlayStation 5 feature that I really like, and this is probably going a bit under the radar right now, is that it has logged playtime. That means it will show how long you've played all of your games, and I believe this includes your PlayStation 4 library as well. I don't know why, but I've always loved this feature, and it's actually one of my favorite things about Steam and the 3DS. They do a great job with this, and I like to look at what games I've played the most. Again, I don't really know why, but I love this feature, so I'm pretty happy about that. Now, there has been some concern about the DualSense controller and how long its battery will last. Well, it looks like on average, it will probably be around 6 to 7 hours, but some are reporting upwards of 10 depending on what you're doing with the controller. Yeah, that isn't really amazing or anything, but I wouldn't really consider it bad either. My PlayStation 4 controllers seemingly only last like 4 to 5 hours, so this seems like a small improvement. Not necessarily impressive, but it is manageable. With that said, there are two features here that I think Sony could improve on. The PlayStation 5 does not have Quick Resume, which is something that the Xbox Series X does have, where you can go from game to game almost instantaneously. Surprisingly, the PlayStation 5 doesn't do this, which is kind of odd considering their focus on speed. Now maybe this will change in the future, but we'll see what happens there. The other though is the lack of external storage. You will not be able to store games on an external hard drive. That's a bit unfortunate because the PlayStation 5 already doesn't have a ton of space, and I believe it's 668 gigabytes of capacity, so hopefully they can get that working in the future. Overall though, the PlayStation 5 does sound like a really impressive console. In other news, let's talk about Xbox because a big Xbox Series X console exclusive has officially been delayed into 2021. Yes, unfortunately the medium will no longer release on December 10th, but instead, it's coming January 28th, and I actually think this is a very smart thing, and let me explain. See, the thing is, there's always a couple of games that releases every year that you don't want to compete with, because fans are mainly going to be focusing on that game. Well, Cyberpunk 2077 is one of those games, and it was originally set to release on November 19th, but as we all know, it got delayed to December 10th, the same day that the medium was planned to release. I mean, honestly, I would be moving out of that spot as well because regardless if you're an Xbox player or PlayStation, almost everybody is going to be focusing on Cyberpunk 2077 for the foreseeable future. The medium would have been buried under Cyberpunk's hype, so again, I think this was the logical move. They're not saying this was the reason that they delayed it, but I do believe it played a large part. And like I said, Xbox players is going to be focusing on Cyberpunk, so I don't think that hurts the holiday for Xbox at all. For me personally, I'm really excited about the medium, and it reminds me a lot of Resident Evil with that fixed camera angle. I think it looks good, it's ambitious, and it's even innovative, but I'm more than willing to wait an extra month. Now actually before I go, I do want to talk about one more thing just real quick. This kind of surprised me, but we're getting some comparisons of load times for backwards compatible games. And while the Xbox Series X seemingly loads these games faster than the PlayStation 5, which I found interesting because one big talking point for the PlayStation 5 is faster load times. Well, with backwards compatible games, the Xbox Series X does seem to be doing this faster in the tested games that we've seen so far. Now, do keep in mind that these aren't optimized games, so we could see different results for games that are designed for next generation consoles, but I'm just going to kind of say what I've been saying for a while. Both consoles are fast and both are powerful, and we're clearly seeing that the Xbox Series X is a fast console as well. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.